Hello guys, and welcome back to Commander, the Great War, with our Entente playthrough. And as you can see, it is now winter. It's the 10th of December of 1914, and I have to say, Europe never looked so good for the Entente this early in the war. I believe this early in the war, the Schlieffen Plan was just starting to run out of steam near Paris. There was a constant mobile back and forth, and yet the Schlieffen Plan currently ends at Brussels. It has given up Liège. Alsace-Lorraine has been claimed. Germans scramble to the border. The Russians have just conquered eastern Prussia minus Königsberg, which is still under siege. Unfortunately, we can't make them run out of supplies because of the harbor by the looks of it, but they're running out of efficiency and they will fall. We are holding our own, barely-ish, around the Austrian front. It's a little back and forth on who's really winning there. Serbia's holding their own for the time being. Definitely a brutal fight. The Ottomans have entered the war. Italy joins in somewhere a little over 10 or about 10 turns, I guess. Bulgaria will join sometime over 20 turns. And let's not forget later entries into the war, which aren't yet listed here. Romania, I believe, is set to join the Entente historically. Greece is set to join the Entente historically, and that would spice up this theater for sure, especially with how well it's going. The USA is set to join us. I believe Portugal's set to join us. Theoretically, it can only get easier from here in terms of our total manpower, in terms of our total forces. I believe we have actually survived the hardest part of the war, the great offensive of the Central Powers in the early part of the war. And I don't believe it can get much harder for us. I mean, it will get harder when Bulgaria joins because Serbia cannot defend against two fronts. And that will unfortunately close off a front. However, Italy would have already opened up a new front. Portugal might join around the same time. Throw in Romania later. I don't see that we can't do this based on how it's going so far. In terms of Serbia, this turn I'm going to do nothing. I don't have the ammo to shoot my artillery. I don't really have an income with Serbia to do much of anything. It's really pushing it should I try to. I've gone ahead and repaired the garrison that is now relaxing, and we're just going to stay on the defensive because right now with the winter and just my income, it's about all I can afford to do. In terms of the ocean, we're going to hold the French fleets where they are. We do have this convoy to deal with, and this convoy has procced a massive German attack to the Russians. As I put this pre-dreadnought here to guard this, they've come after it with a submarine and with a pre-dreadnought, I believe, to try to save this convoy. They care so deeply about it. Well, it's not a fortunate situation for the Russian Navy, but I think we can make something of it. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this could probably be the riskiest thing I am doing, is I'm going to undock the dreadnought. And we know dreadnoughts are risky to use because of how valuable they are. But with the German submarine already showing itself, I'm not too worried. We're going to bring it over here to Sweden, and we're going to stare down that dreadnought. Very good. I'm going to sail the two incoming British submarines into the sea, whatever you want to call this, and get them headed towards that battle. As we can see, it's pretty open from there. This convoy is probably going to try to get to Königsberg. The submarines will cut them off on their way in. If this is all they have up here and that they're willing to commit, I don't think we need to worry too much about the Russian Navy overall. I do want these two submarines to get a chance to repair, which means they won't get to really get in there in time, but the convoy will constantly be on the move, and the Germans are going to be way more concerned with dealing with the convoy than dealing with Russian ships. So we're going to go ahead and repair this submarine. That actually took some points. Put the British submarine into port. We're going to repair that as well, as much as we can. The armored cruiser is going to go and threaten the actual convoy itself, because I believe that will help hold the attention of the submarine away from the dreadnought. I'm not too worried about any of their remaining light cruisers coming in and threatening the dreadnought, because it's just not much of a threat, really. And now we have double buffs in on the pre-dreadnought, which means it can get some better results. We are not going to use it against the submarine. Oh, that's funny. This can't even attack the submarine, maybe because it's already moved, I'm not sure. But we are going to start by taking the dreadnought, and we are going to fire on the pre-dreadnought. We did 2 damage, we lost none. Exactly the result that I was hoping for. And now I get a much better result if we want to go on the offensive with the pre-dreadnought. I think I'll do just that. So we dealt 2, we lost none. Better result. It said we would lose 1. So now their pre-dreadnought, one of their last remaining ships that is not a light cruiser, and albeit they can make more, it only takes a couple turns and some resources, is now mostly dead and not much of a worry for us. This submarine's the biggest worry. I'm going to directly threaten this merchant convoy with this ship here, the armored cruiser, to try to hold the attention of the submarine and do what damage we can so that these submarines have a better way of it when they get their turn to attack. I'm like looking at the ships trying to figure out, am I just missing ammo on this armored cruiser to fire at a submarine? I guess not. I don't see anything about it. So let's just go ahead and attack the merchant convoy. Central power ports blockaded. The Entente have intercepted merchant shipping heading for the central power ports and established a blockade. The convoy routes will remain blocked until the Entente's dominance of the high seas is broken. Interesting event. Now the weird thing about that event is that was literally just a historical flavor text because there was no option to enact a blockade. All I did was attack one of their convoys for the first time. That's not really a blockade, but hey man, however you want to look at it. In addition, we have another merchant convoy coming from Africa. Eventually, I want to get submarines here. I am making submarines, but for right now, we have these ships to work with that were easier to redeploy than anything else, really. 2 pre-dreadnoughts and an armored cruiser. Well, let's go ahead and work with what we have here. I'm going to move this one into the port, so it's in a nice little spot. Oh my god. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead. Why is this going to do so much damage, but this armored cruiser didn't? Is it because of the port buff? Rank 1. Rank 1. Dude, I don't see the difference. Armored cruisers are supposed to be better than pre-dreadnoughts. At least I think they are. 23. 24. This is defense. 15 attack. And 15 attack. 15 attack. 26, 28. Oh, I guess, well, maybe pre-dreadnoughts are actually better than armored cruisers. Maybe I had that backwards. I don't get to play a whole lot of this game, just as much as I record. Let's go ahead and attack. 7 damage. Pretty nice. Move the other pre-dreadnought down. And bam, there you go. That's a enemy convoy just fucked. Alright, well, I didn't even need the armored cruiser. So let's go ahead and move that roughly back into position, why don't we? To right about here. So we have someone watching over this area at the very least. And we'll move the pre-dreadnoughts back the first chance we get. So we did wipe out a German merchant convoy just like that. You don't just get the benefit of wiping out a convoy because they don't really pay for the convoy, but the convoy generates points. So I guess they do pay for it. It's just they never had the points and now they will never get the points. And that's, well, that's the point. Let's take a look down here in Egypt. I cautiously moved forward to see what we might be dealing with over here on the Ottoman front, because in real life this was a big source of fighting and I wanted to make sure we didn't just let them encroach on us by themselves, hence why I put all these infantry here and why I'm even making another British infantry just in case they need more reinforcements. We do see an Ottoman garrison here. Let's go ahead and see what's actually on the city then. An artillery. There's fortifications on the city, but all they have sitting here is an artillery just out in the open. Well, that's pretty nice. I'm gonna go ahead and move this guy up here to reinforce this. They probably have more troops down right here anyway. This is a port, so right here. But I can't cover that much, and if I move here, we could get outflanked, and I don't want to deal with that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and attack this artillery. This just seems like free kills to me at this point. We lost 1, we dealt 3. I mean, it's better than nothing for an artillery just being up on the front. And now we have this garrison to deal with, which it seems like we have a good opportunity to attack. I mean, it's not entrenched or anything, and our odds, while not the greatest, are not the worst. So let's go ahead and attack. And that was absolute dog shit. What the hell? Also, by the looks of it, I think moving through the desert takes efficiency. So that's interesting. Yeah, we moved twice in the desert. I think it takes efficiency. Does it say anything about that? It just says it's unsuitable. Huh. But they're in a desert too. Right now we're in Dunes Desert. Yeah, I guess moving around in this terrain isn't so great. So we're probably going to end up holding our ground here. and entrenching as much as we can, even though that's not actually a lot, not nearly as much as you can entrench in Gaza itself, and hoping for the best. This is why I want armored cars for down here. I feel like they'd be incredibly useful. At least, you know, here. Maybe not further in. Unless the fighting got taken out over to these dunes and stuff. Who knows? I believe one singular convoy, I think just one, has reached the British mainland up by Ireland. And I think only one. Remember, I just want to point out the effects that it had. I think we should have something like 60 points at best. We have 124 now. We had about 520 manpower. We started with 600. We have a 520, 530, something like that. And now we are at 653. That's insane. One convoy reaching the mainland seems to have an insane bonus. I mean, just by that alone, I could now afford to go as far into infantry as I feasibly want to in order to fund the war against the Ottomans. That was one convoy. That is bad because we did let one convoy reach Germany, which is unfortunate. But we got one and we can see the effects of it. We have the naval power to stop them from necessarily get any more convoys to their mainland, and they can't necessarily stop us because I've blockaded just about everywhere they could come out from. That's insane. And the French are going to start getting these. The French and the British are literally never going to run out of manpower if they keep getting their own convoys like this, especially the British. The British have endless convoys coming. The French only have a couple. And if every convoy gives like the same amount, roughly, at least, you know, because they had 10 instead of less, that's why it was worth so much, because it wasn't injured. The British will become nigh unstoppable in this fucking war. I may have to assign more of an active role to them than I thought. I planned on playing the defensive over here against the Ottomans. I could go batshit crazy fighting the Ottomans. Well, anyway, let's look at the Western Front. The Germans have scrambled to stop me from proceeding with my plans, which have probably proven to be quite dire to them. However, they're too little, too late. I am about to cut off the exit from Brussels and trap two of their elite infantry in the deepest pits of the Schlieffen Plan, which they can no longer afford to keep track of. Of course, that is not going to be enough to hold the line here. So I'm going to send the BEF to go buddy-buddy with them up close and keep them surrounded. We can't really do any good attacks, probably because it's the winter right now, but we can start to starve out the enemies. Oh, and they're buffed because of this one commander in Brussels. This French infantry led by Joffrey that I sent over to assist will move one forward. One hex to help keep them completely surrounded, and now all we really need to do is close in the lines. And I think, due to how important, quote-unquote, reclaiming Brussels should be, I will send Nivelle, leave the south without a commander for now, so we can double up on trying to besiege and take down Brussels. I think that's how I'm going to handle this. So I've gone ahead and I moved him here. I'm not sure what to do with this infantry. He's kind of free to do as he pleases. But I must take advantage of some opportunities the Germans have left me. For some reason, they've decided to staff their front with an artillery, a fighter group, and an injured fighter group. I've gone ahead and repaired my artillery and my fighter group, giving them a chance to rest. But we have some infantry ready near the front line that aren't being repaired like these two that could spring into action and take advantage of this situation. And I think I am obliged to do exactly that. So, I'm going to move an infantry forward here, which will be used to attack this fighter. I'm going to move an infantry here, which is either going to attack the arty or this fighter. I'm not quite sure which one is better to attack. Their arty is higher ranked, so I kind of want to go for that. Plus, we can double up with our cavalry. And the arty doesn't have a place to retreat, so we could even completely wipe it out. Just like that. So let's get our attack started first against this fighter group and get some free kills in that they're going to have to repair. We've downed them to 6. I think we did like 2 damage. Not as much as we were promised. This infantry's efficiency is kind of lacking, but given that they are entrenched on the front and surrounded by friendlies, I don't think we have to worry about the train really going out of its way. I feel like there may just be a efficiency loss as well for moving in the winter almost. Yeah, because these guys are down to 9 as well. What about you? 9. now 7. Yeah, I think there's an efficiency penalty for moving around at all during the winter. So we have to keep that in mind. Everything we move ever during the winter, at least during these hexes, maybe it's affecting the desert hexes as well, I'm not sure. Maybe that's what we were noticing. But I think that's just because it's the desert. Is going to cost us some efficiency, even if it's not a railroad. So right now, using a railroad and not using a railroad aren't too different. So we're going to have to keep that in mind in our overall strategy. But we have to keep in mind that they have to keep it in mind too, because it will be affecting them as well from this point onwards. And if they hope to push, they're going to have to move. I wonder if attacking has an effect as well. Let's see, you're at 9, and let's test this out. And now you're at 8, so even attacking in the winter causes you to lose efficiency. It's kind of a big deal. But we dealt like 4 damage, we lost 1. We're going to go ahead and follow up with the cavalry, and it doesn't look like it's actually going to go that great, but we've done 5 damage, we lost 2. The efficiency loss here isn't really very great. They may push against the cavalry. They may see this as an opportunity. I'm not too bothered if this cavalry does get fucked up, because it's just a cavalry. We're fucking up one of their arty pieces, and right now, unfortunately, it does have a place to run to. I could say I wish it didn't, but it does. I'm going to leave these rear lines kind of open for now. I'm not going to move this garrison off the front, because I don't want them to move their cavalry through here and reclaim anything. Luckily, the infantry we have resting in the rear isn't doing so bad, so they should be able to help out once next turn comes around. But this is going to be a brutal winter. In order to bolster my eventual siege of Brussels, I'm going to actually move this garrison over here towards the front next to Liege to make more of a front line. And now it's down to 9. This infantry will move in front of Brussels. Now it's down to 9. Okay. And we have it basically perfectly surrounded in infantry, with the exception that we don't have anyone to the north. Once they start having issues with supply, we'll be able to really clamp down on them. And I wonder if that will have an exaggerated effect during the winter. Either way, I will not go ahead and attack them needlessly until they start suffering. That way our units that are standing still can have a chance to recover. Fighting in the winter is going to be a bitch. I certainly hope that the damage that I did to this artillery ends up being worth it, because it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. But we unfortunately could not finish off the whole thing without the help of like a fighter. But there's so many fighters over here anyway, we would have lost our own fighters doing stuff like that. Luckily, these guys will be back into the fight soon. The artillery definitely needs some time to rest, but we need to push the artillery up probably to around here, assuming this doesn't collapse as a front. The cavalry will probably want to stay still. Most of these units will probably want to stay still and do very little attacking. I just had to exploit the fact that they put so many support units on the front in order to haphazardly get a line going. Our north is very strong right now. Our south is recovering and could be pushed back in on, but I doubt we stand a chance of losing Metz or even Strasbourg for that matter. Maybe just a couple hexes at best. With the remaining French production points, I'm going ahead and purchase some expanded ammunition production. Like I said, I want to get this to 10 so that I can consistently keep a singular battery running at the very least. However, I do plan on getting more artillery for France, so we'll see how that actually ends up playing out. But right now it's at 8. I want to get it to 9. I will leave it at 10 once it gets there though, and shift my focus, because I know there will be times where we're not even using some arty pieces, where ammunition will get to stockpile, and the higher you go, really the less efficient that this all gets. But let's go ahead and upgrade this for now. Now that we have all these points for the UK, we have to go ahead and put them to use. Now, because I'm sure the Germans put all their points, I accidentally let them get to use. I'm going to go ahead and purchase an artillery piece for Egypt against the Ottomans, because I think that will be pretty useful. Pretty high cost, but again, I think it'll see some use. And we do have a good amount of ammunition stored up, despite all of our naval fighting. I really don't know how that consumes ammunition. I'm not really sure how that works yet, but let's go ahead and purchase an artillery piece, and we still have 84 to work with. I think having at least one fighter group in Egypt would also be a pretty nice thing to have against the Ottomans. At least one fighter, right? I plan to get bombers later whenever we finally finish researching it. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase another fighter as well. Since they are getting some arty, I think I'll use the rest of their points on expanding their ammunition production. because I don't know if they'll need it, but I still feel like getting everyone's production to 10 is just a very healthy thing to do. We're going to go ahead and purchase more ammunition production and get some efficiency out of that. And now all that should be left is the Eastern Front. Now in the South, I think I want to play it pretty defensively. So I'm just going to end up repairing anyone here that needs any repairs. I'm a little worried about this garrison, but we'll see how that ends up going. I know I have a Russian infantry I can deploy, and I do not need it anymore that I know of in the South. The Ottomans are not pushing anything against the Russians, and I don't need to mobilize the Russian front against the Ottomans currently. The Russians right now are doing a very good job at distracting the Central Powers in the East and claiming a lot of their territory, and honestly, we hardly even have the overall manpower to cover the entire Russian frontier. And let's be real, Germany and Austria are way more important to fight than the Ottomans. And the Ottomans don't really seem like they're going to make very good progress against the Russians anyway. It would take me making like an entire new army and mobilizing it down here to really achieve anything. There's no roads, there's no train tracks, the cities are sparse. In winter, I'm sure it'll be even worse. I don't have the resources to just kind of immediately spawn an army there, nor do I want to even try to get an army down there. So I'm going to focus my efforts over here in the west. I still feel we need some more troops in and around this Austrian border, at least infantry, you know, as opposed to garrisons. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to deploy this infantry right here with the idea that it will fill in the hole that this garrison feels like it's going to end up leaving. You know, I wonder if the trains are lowered in efficiency if they move during the winter. I'm sure they are. It doesn't make much sense, but I'm sure they are. Let's look back up to Konglomerat. We still have to continue this siege. The enemy is weak and we can't give them time to recover, winter or not. And there are no Germans or anything up here to threaten our advance. Last I remember seeing, the Germans are actually all just piled up along their border. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of Germans kind of appear on the west. So I think they're maybe in the process of remobilizing. They're moving troops all over every front constantly, west, east, and south. Man, I can't wait till we get Italy. So let's go ahead and start with the obvious, a artillery barrage on Konglomerat. We actually dealt 1 damage and took some of their action points. That's certain to help. Not action points, I mean their efficiency points. I'd love to move this fighter up to get a bit of a recon. Honestly, Russia just needs more planes in general. The big thing with Russia is they start out with so much manpower, which is great, but they don't get the convoys like Great Britain and France do. So it'll be very interesting to just try to utilize them properly. Because, you know, just like Serbia, and I'm sure Italy maybe, yeah, their manpower will constantly trickle down, and their production points will get no spikes. But they may have a higher overall production. I mean, they kind of do, yeah. But I'm going to go ahead and strafe Konglomerat. Also, it looks like these ranged attacks do not get hindered by the winter, not even the flying attacks, so support units are actually pretty useful during the winter. It doesn't look like it really reduced anything anymore. If we want to go on the attack, we'll have to do it like this. Our troops around Konglomerat aren't doing so great, but the enemy's efficiency is so low, I feel like if I just try to repair them, the enemy will recover as well. And I believe we can come out of this with an at least equal KDR if we take the offense. The first attack may not be so good, but remember, every time a unit is engaged in battle in the winter, it loses efficiency. This thing only has 4 efficiency, and I have 4 troops here. So I believe I can just whittle away at them and win this, theoretically. It may help if I move Brusilov closer, however, to extend his buffs to all of these units. That might help. So I'm going to move Brusilov closer. Which, yeah, what did not cost him any efficiency loss. Huh? I feel like everything I know is just being proven wrong. Maybe the Russians are immune to it. Who knows? Either way, we're going to start attacking now. I'm going to use the Warsaw force first because they have the meatiest force and seem to be getting better results overall than the actual armored train will get. So let's go ahead and attack. Okay, not a good result. -2. We lost 2. We killed none. But we took out half of the remaining efficiency from 4 to 2. So let's go ahead and use this infantry next. Ugh. We lost 1 and we dealt none. So we lost 3 so far, but we took them down so far to 1, which I think is actually really good. Let's follow up with Udenik. So we dealt 2 and we lost none. So we've lost 3, we dealt 2, and they're down to 0 efficiency. Now let's try with the armored train. We dealt 4, and we lost none. So we've dealt 6 and lost 3 to get this result kind of going the way that I have gotten it. It only has 2 strength left. You know, we have like a 2 KDR right now on this move I've done. And next turn, I should be able to completely wipe out the defenses of Königsberg, take it over, and then figure out repairing a lot of these units and then reforming them to make a new front against the Germans, which I don't think they're ready for. Right now, I'm a pretty firm believer that we can accomplish something pretty good on this southern front. There might be a wall of fucking Germans here that I just can't see right now, but from what I've seen, the Austrian front is something that they pretty much scramble to hold. And I believe these cavalry could be key in accomplishing it. At least, you know, maybe better than everything else I have up here. Supported by the infantry, of course. So I'm going to actually move this garrison back a touch. See, now that costs a point. Why? Only some things are... It's really confusing. Anyway, I'm going to charge this cavalry up into these fortifications. Oh, and here's that wall I was talking about. It's filled with Germans and Austrians. Actually, by the looks of it. I'm going to move this cavalry up with them. This garrison in the rear. And kind of prepare myself to maybe send the cavalry around. Take advantage of these weakened units. Maybe try to get some in flanking thing going. At worst, they patch up the hole too quickly, and then I just rest the cavalry or move them back towards Warsaw. I don't know. I'm going to move this garrison up a touch. Does that take a point? No. Okay, I don't really get it. I'm going to move that garrison up a touch. I believe that's everything I'm going to move and do for this turn. The Russian points are going to go into purchasing more ammunition production because they are about to hit 10. That is my goal for them, to get them up to 10 production. So there you go. I've hit my goal. The Russians are at 10 production. Every turn that they do not use their artillery, they'll stockpile pretty well. Now I'm going to probably shift my focus of production to making more infantry, to making artillery to back them up, to making more fighters, and especially bombers, since Russians start out with actually some pretty good bomber tech, but I want the fighters to assist them. So I'll probably go fighters and then bombers and then artillery. I'm not sure. And with that, we have our whole turn. So let's go ahead and hit end turn and hope that it doesn't end up being too bad. All right, a lot of naval attacks happening. Man, the German Navy's coming out. They got another convoy route that comes down from Norway, it turns out. Man, I'm going to need more British ships than I really gave credit for to block all these routes off, because we've seen what these convoys can do. Okay, the 2 at Belgium traded places and did some attacks. Silly of them. The reinforcements are rushing away from Belgium. They did some attacks by the looks of it, and they're reforming. A lot of them seem to be heading south for some reason. Maybe they're getting ready for Italy. Maybe they're just trying to form a line behind that river. I can't tell. They're doing some repairs. They're staying kind of on the offensive around Serbia, at least a little. Reforming their line over here by Russia. I feel like every turn they're just always reforming their fucking lines, and I don't understand why. They did go after that garrison just as I expected. It's okay, we'll fill in that other garrison that I sent from the rear. Okay, okay. Navy's still moving around up there. Not a bad turn. Not a bad turn so far. We're getting valuable intelligence. I'm getting to prepare myself. I have some British submarines finishing soon, and I'll be able to use those to block off that northern route, actually. Vehicle research. War Ministry has now set a budget for the vehicle research. It's now available in the research panel. A Christmas truce. Held an unofficial truce on Christmas, except they didn't. The French have unlocked dual shaft propulsion. No idea what that is. We finished a British airship, a British fighter, and a British submarine. Perfect. So next turn, like this upcoming turn, I'll be able to take these submarines. Well, one submarine. I know I have another one being made in 2 turns. It'll be done. I can have one loiter in here and then redirect these other ships up north. And then they can watch this until I get more submarines to send up here. But for now, I mean, these blockades are working. They're doing exactly what I wanted them to do. The Germans did take their last 2 remaining light cruisers and march them out specifically to try to save this merchant convoy. And at first, I made fun of them for it because I was like, why would you risk your entire navy to protect a merchant convoy? Oh, because one merchant convoy at full strength brings in enough production points to produce a dreadnought. And then some. Like a dreadnought and a light cruiser. Okay, maybe that's a little excessive. Maybe not that much. But a dreadnought. One merchant convoy brings in the points you need to produce a fucking dreadnought. Now, put that into perspective, what you can produce on land, and I see why they're defending it so hard. We have another one arriving this turn. I mean, we have multiple arriving very soon, and we have an endless train of them. I think the longer this war goes on, just as real life, this is just going to get easier and easier for us. I think we're definitely through or in the hardest part of the war, and it's definitely looking manageable. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, so let me know what you think about how this war is going so far in the comments below. Let me know how you're enjoying the series. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.